Homeless twin girls were pushing a double stroller with twin babies through the snow. When the young billionaire opened the door to his mansion, he discovered a secret that broke his heart. The wind howled mercilessly through the deserted streets of New York, carrying snowflakes that danced in the frigid air before settling on the frozen asphalt. In the midst of the storm that grew fiercer by the minute, two small figures stood out against the white backdrop, fighting against the invisible current that seemed to want to push them back. Emma and Olivia, identical twins only 5 years old, clung with all their might to the baby stroller they were pushing. Their fingers, red and numb from the cold, could barely maintain a firm grip on the frozen metal handles. Their angelic faces, framed by golden curls peeking out from faded hats, were marked by a determination that didn't seem to fit such young children. "We have to keep going, Liv," Emma whispered, her voice almost lost in the roar of the storm. Olivia nodded silently, blinking to clear the snowflakes accumulating on her eyelashes. In the stroller, protected by layers of tattered blankets, two babies slept, oblivious to the drama unfolding around them. The twins moved forward step by step, their tiny boots sinking into the snow that already reached their knees. The neighborhood they passed through was in stark contrast to their ragged appearance. Imposing mansions rose on both sides of the street, their illuminated windows exuding a warmth that seemed to mock the children fighting the cold outside. Emma stumbled, nearly falling, and Olivia quickly grabbed her by the arm. "Careful, Em," she warned, concern evident in her blue eyes. "Remember what Mommy always said. We have to take care of each other." Mentioning their mother made them both stop for a moment, their minds drifting to memories of a past not so distant, yet feeling as if it belonged to another life. A shrill sound cut through the air, bringing Emma and Olivia back to the harsh reality. One of the babies had woken up and begun to cry, the sound echoing through the deserted street. "Shoo," Olivia murmured, leaning over the stroller to try to soothe the little one. "It's going to be okay, I promise." But even she could tell the words rang hollow. The twins hadn't eaten anything since the morning of the previous day, and the cold seemed to be draining the last bit of strength from their frail bodies. Hunger gnawed at their stomachs, cruelly reminding them how long it had been since their last decent meal. Emma looked around, desperate for any sign of help. The mansions remained impassive, their doors firmly shut against the cold and any unwanted intruders. For a moment, she considered knocking on one of them, begging for help, but fear stopped her. What if mean people found them? What if they tried to separate them? "We can't stop," Emma said, her voice trembling from cold and exhaustion. "We have to find a safe place for the babies," Olivia agreed, though her eyes betrayed the fatigue that threatened to overwhelm her. The two resumed pushing the stroller, their steps slow and measured in the treacherous snow. As they proceeded down the street, memories continued to assail them. Fragments of a life that seemed to have existed long ago. That a particularly strong gust of wind yanked Olivia from her daydream, nearly knocking her over. Emma quickly steadied her, their eyes meeting in a moment of silent understanding. No matter how hard things got, they had each other, and they had the babies to protect. The stroller groaned in protest as the twins pushed it over a particularly tall mound of snow. For one terrifying moment, it seemed like it would tip over, but the girls used all the strength they had left to keep it upright. "Almost there," Emma muttered, though she had no idea where they were going. The snow was falling harder now, cutting visibility down to just a few feet ahead. The mansion lights turned into blurred patches like distant beacons in a sea of white. The babies began to fuss again, their tiny faces contorted with cold and hunger. Olivia tried to hum a lullaby, the same one their mother used to sing to them, but her voice came out shaky and weak. "Mommy," Emma whispered, a solitary tear freezing on her cheek. "Where are you?" The twins pressed on, two tiny dots of determination in the vast, relentless whiteness. Their steps, though unsteady, carried the power of a love that surpassed their age, a protective instinct that drove them forward even when every movement felt like a struggle. While Emma and Olivia fought against the storm, a few blocks away, In one of the most imposing mansions in the neighborhood, Michael Reeves watched the blizzard through the massive window of his living room, a glass of 30-year-old whiskey in his hand. At 32, Michael was the epitome of success in the public eye. A billionaire, the owner of a real estate empire, and one of New York's most eligible bachelors. Yet, as the city vanished beneath a white mantle, Michael felt only a familiar emptiness. The knocking on the door echoed again, more urgent this time, cutting through the mansion's silence like a sharp blade. Michael Reeves stood still for a few seconds, his body tense, still holding his whiskey glass. The mysterious phone call he'd just received lingered in his mind, keeping him on edge. Who could possibly be at his door at this time of night in the middle of a snowstorm? His first instinct was to ignore it. But the knocking continued, now accompanied by a sound that made Michael furrow his brow in confusion. Was that crying? A child's cry. Driven by curiosity stronger than his usual caution, Michael moved toward the door. Peering through the peephole, he tried to make out something, but the storm made it impossible to see clearly. All he could distinguish were small, indistinct shapes against the furious white of the snow. With an exasperated sigh and a twinge of apprehension, he unlocked the door and opened it. The icy wind struck him immediately, carrying snowflakes into the foyer. Two small girls, no older than 5 or 6, stood in his doorway. Identical twins, he realized, with disheveled blonde hair and pale faces from the cold. Their big blue eyes stared at him with a mix of fear and hope. And behind them, a baby stroller. Michael could hear the faint whimpers coming from inside. "Please," one of the girls whispered, her voice almost lost in the wind. "Can we come in?" Michael stood there, mind reeling at the surreal scene before him. A part of him, the cold, calculating part that had gotten him to the top of the business world, told him to shut the door, to call the police. But another part of him, a part he thought had died long ago, felt inexplicably drawn to the pleading eyes of these children. "Where did you come from?" he managed, his voice harsher than he intended. The other twin stepped forward, placing herself protectively in front of her sister. "Our house, it's gone. Please. It's so cold." Michael looked past them at the snow-covered street. There was no sign of any adults, no cars, nothing but the relentless storm. "Where are your parents?" he asked, a hint of suspicion in his voice. "We don't know," the first twin answered, her voice trembling. "Mommy told us to look after the babies, to find a safe place." The baby's crying grew louder, a distress sound that somehow pierced Michael's heart. Despite his best efforts to remain detached, he found himself at an impasse. His entire adult life had been built on cold calculation, always doing what was best for his interests. Letting 4 unknown children into his home in the middle of the night went against every instinct of self-preservation he had. But as he hesitated, images of the families he'd displaced for his real estate projects flashed through his mind. "Please," the second twin begged again, her small hand gripping the edge of the door as if afraid it would close at any moment. Michael closed his eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. When he opened them, his decision was made. "Come in," he said abruptly, stepping aside. "Quick, before all the heat escapes." The twins needed no second invitation. With surprising strength for such small children, they maneuvered the stroller inside, leaving small trails of melting snow in their wake. Michael shut the door behind them, immediately silencing the roar of the storm. The contrast between the chaos outside and the sudden hush inside was almost surreal. He turned to face his unexpected guests, really seeing them for the first time in the soft light of the foyer.